Are you a lady that's going through the menopause who is sick of the Western medicine approach, or rather dismissal of the menopause? If so, this one's for you. Let's take a holistic look at the menopause. Hello, my name is Rosie. I'm a holistic coach, and today we're looking at the menopause from a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint. As a Qigong practitioner, it is not uncommon for me to have menopausal women in my Qigong classes, and what I've found out through speaking to these ladies is that one of the most common symptoms that they have is waking during the night and not being able to get back to sleep. Now, when I've probed a little bit deeper as to when they're waking up in the night, a lot of them have reported back that it's between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's believed that within the 24-hour clock, there are 2 hours given to each major organ. During this 2-hour time slot, the organ is said to detoxify, be at its peak energy, and it's allocated this time slot so we can begin to understand our body from a more holistic standpoint, seeing the effects on our mental, physical, and energetic health. The organ that's associated between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. is the liver. And interestingly enough, the liver is seen to govern the female reproductive system. Why? Because the liver governs our blood. The liver filters, purifies, and detoxifies our blood, especially during the night. In fact, the liver is most active during our rested states. So it makes perfect sense for ladies going through the change to be waking up between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. due to its direct link with the liver. However, what's also really interesting about these times is that our core body temperature has to drop gradually for us to reach deep levels of sleep. Once the temperature has reached a certain point, our body temperature begins to rise again. This beginning to rise of the body temperature signals to our body that we're waking up. This is a very slow process, but every single person on this planet goes through this process of the body cooling in order to sleep and the temperature rising in order to wake. If we wake between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., as most of us have done and will do most of our lives, the core body temperature begins to rise between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Now, for the most of us, this body temperature shift wakes us, but we don't tend to realise. Unless we're awake for more than 45 seconds, we're still basically in a sleep. We are none the wiser to us having this slight awakening during the night. However, if we're in a light period of sleep or we have an imbalance in the body, this shift in body temperature can allow us to wake and be unable to get back to sleep. So, not only does it make sense for ladies going through the change to be waking up between the hours of the liver of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m, but it also makes sense from a sleep standpoint that as our body temperature rises, we begin to wake. Now, one of the key differences between a normal sleeper and a lady experiencing symptoms of the menopause is the hot flush. And 99% of the time, that middle of the night waking is woke with a hot flush. Because the liver governs the blood, it detoxifies it, purifies it, and is filtering it through the night. The liver also has a major standpoint on the core body temperature, which means that if there's an imbalance in the liver and the lady is waking up between 1 and 3 a.m, it's perfectly natural for that wake up to be joined with a sudden hot flush. What's also key to note here is that the liver produces hormones and is also affected by certain hormones. Within the menopause, it's not uncommon for there to be a sudden drop in estrogen. This estrogen is what creates the defense mechanism of the liver, so a sudden drop can create a liver imbalance. So, as our hormones change, our liver function changes, and that change in our liver function has a huge impact on the rest of our body. Let's not forget we are an operating system with each process feeding into one another. One imbalance in one area causes a knock-on impact for the rest of our body. Even before the menopause, a lady is experiencing significant changes within her liver throughout various times of the cycle because hormones affect the liver. Now, one of the beauties of traditional Chinese medicine is that they don't just look at the organ and the symptoms and how it works physically. they look at things from an emotional and energetic standpoint. The liver governs the blood, but it also governs the qi in the body. The qi is our energy. Qi literally translates to energy. So if we have an imbalance in the liver, it's not uncommon for our energy levels to fluctuate too. But as well as this, in Chinese medicine, they believe that different organs link to different emotions. And if we do not express ourselves, we suppress the emotion within. And that emotion then goes and has an effect on the organ that it's associated with. So the liver is associated with anger, jealousy, and frustration. I believe this is why sometimes women can be feeling very frustrated during the menopausal time. However, the liver isn't just associated with anger, jealousy, and frustration. It's also associated with spring. Springtime, the season of spring. And what happens during the season of spring? Renewal, rebirth, a beautiful time of year. The liver is also associated with the element of wood. Wood resembles growth. So whilst the menopause may be an extremely frustrating time, it's important for us ladies to remember that the menopause is the start of something new, the start of a new chapter, a chapter where ladies can put themselves first, let go of the responsibility and step into their wisdom. The organ that follows the liver in the 24-hour clock is the lungs. The lungs are purifying and detoxifying during the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. And just thinking back to a few moments ago where I said that between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. we're likely to wake during our natural sleep cycle. And if we can't get back to sleep after waking during the liver hour, we tend to still be awake during the hours of the lungs. The lungs represent sadness, depression, and grief. And it only makes sense that as one door closes, another door opens, hence the liver representing spring, this new chapter that a lady walks into after completing the menopause or even whilst going through the menopause. But the lungs represent the grief that follows that. We can't open a new door without closing an old one. And whether that old door is something that needs to be closed, wants to be closed, or has to be closed, there's an element of grief that follows an ending. And just very interesting that that time slot shortly follows after the liver. But I won't be touching too much on the lungs today. There'll be a video in the coming weeks with more details about different organs, their different emotions, and how to notice if there's an imbalance within. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel and get notifications for when the next video uploads. Now we have covered the liver, we know that the times of the liver are between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Waking during this time may be a resemblance of an imbalance in the liver, which could be caused from the changes in hormones linked to menopause, or it could also be caused by the emotion and the suppressing of the emotions linked to menopause or before the menopause. It's a little bit like what came first, the chicken or the egg. Is the emotion causing the imbalance in the liver, causing the imbalance in the hormones, or are the hormones causing the imbalance in the liver, causing the imbalance in the emotion? Nonetheless, the two directly feed into one another. So it's important that we express anger, jealousy, and frustration in a healthy way rather than suppressing the emotion, not just during menopause, but throughout the whole of our life. In fact, in Chinese medicine, they don't just attach negative emotions to the organs, there are positive ones too. And the positive qualities of the liver are generosity and kindness. And that's not to say to give more out to others, but to be more generous and kind to yourself. The next organ that has a big association with the menopause and the female reproductive system are the kidneys. The kidneys store our qi, they store our energy. They're a storehouse, a powerhouse. But they don't just store our qi, they store many different types of energy, one of them being Jing. Jing essence, the essence of our life. Consider it like a burning flame, and it can only burn for so long before it burns out. And the more we do, the way we live our life, contributes to how quickly that flame burns out. Now, I won't be touching on those topics today, but again, if you're interested in learning more, like, subscribe, and get notifications for when the next videos are coming. And we'll explore Jing in greater detail in one of those videos. But for the purpose of today, Jing is your life essence. It is said that you are born with a certain amount of Jing, so when it's gone, it's gone. Our Jing energy naturally deteriorates over time. That's why we grow old. Menopause is the body's way of reserving Jing energy. It is said that a lot of our Jing energy as women is lost through the menstruation cycle, through the blood that we bleed. And if you think about when you're on your period, how low energy you feel just before and during, it makes sense that as we lose blood, we lose energy. So in an attempt to reserve energy, the body stops the period, aka we go through the change, the menopause. It's actually said that some Taoist females from thousands of years ago were able to stop their period during their youth and start it again when they wanted to conceive children as a way of controlling their Jing energy. How true is that? I'm not sure, but I find it fascinating that through Qigong practices, I have had many women report back to me that their menstruation cycle has significantly improved. And for ladies going through the change, their symptoms linked to the change have significantly improved. So there must be something there about reserving your energy. The time of the kidneys is between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. It's not necessarily going to be disrupting your sleep unless you work nights. However, can you pay attention to your mood, your physical sensations, your energy levels, your symptoms during those times? Because again, it may give an indication to yourself whether there's an imbalance within the kidneys. So the negative qualities of the kidneys are nervousness, fear, and paranoia. Again, seemingly making sense as a lot of women say to experience higher levels of worry, anxiety, or fear as they go through the change. The positive qualities of the kidneys are gentleness and stillness, something that we don't often tap into during today's modern, busy world. How often are you still? How often are you gentle with yourself? And reflecting back on your life, how frequently were you still? How frequently were you gentle on yourself and your life? If you're finding that you are feeling more nervous, more fearful during the change, then perhaps this is due to suppression of those feelings or an overwhelming sense of those feelings in earlier years of life. The element of the kidneys is water, flowing emotions, not holding on to things, just letting go. And the season is winter. Again, letting go, looking within, that stillness that comes with the snow that falls. How often do we tap into that? Especially as modern day women who are normally managing a career, raising a family, running a household, getting everything done, everything in order, while still trying to maintain their physical health, their emotional health, their spiritual health. It makes me wonder whether women have always suffered these same symptoms that women are experiencing in today's world, whether they just experienced it and shut up and put up, or whether they didn't experience the symptoms as much because the lifestyle that they led approaching the menopause was much different to the lifestyle that ladies lead now. In today's world, we're encouraged to not rest during our period, but to go out and do more to prove ourselves to be an iconic woman. And that's not to take away how women before us have led their lives, but it seems that there is a higher pressure on women now than there ever has been. So is that taking a toll on our mind, our body, our spirit, and leading us to have more severe symptoms whilst going through the menopausal change? And because we live in this busy life, is that menopausal change not being adapted to within our lives? Are you still going at 110 miles an hour despite this season, this change within you that's inviting you to slow down, to review, to reflect, and then move forward in a new direction? It's very interesting to look at the mental and emotional side effects and explanations holistically linked to the menopause. When we deal with modern science, Western medicine, going to your local GP, we're not considered as a whole person. We are ticking a list of symptoms in order to provide a prescription, and that is fine. That is not to go against Western medicine, but I feel that Western medicine can be heavily supported by these traditional holistic approaches. Our body experiences the impact of emotions. When we feel sad, we cry. Therefore, when we feel angry, where is that anger going if we're not letting it out? Of course, our body is holding on to it. So how can we learn to let go? The menopause, I guess, is a reflection of learning to let go. In fact, each menstrual cycle, the lady has an opportunity to let go during the menstruation phase. But are we using that? I don't know. Do we have time to do that? I don't think so. So during this phase of your life, or even if you watch this out of interest and you're not actually going through the change at the minute, begin to review how you experience emotions, how you process emotions, and how you live your life in sync with your cycle. I've given you a little bit of an insight into the Chinese medicine concepts and having a look at the menopause from a holistic point of view today, but it wouldn't be right to see you off without giving you some tips to take away. One of the best things that I can recommend to anyone, to be honest, but particularly to ladies going through the change, is doing some form of Qigong or energy practice. This will help you move the body, move any physical energy within the body, but also addresses your mind and your soul. Giving yourself that class, that hour, that half an hour to just switch off, disconnect from the world, reconnect to self with the intention of improving your physical, mental and energetic health works wonders. I offer online Qigong classes on a Thursday at 8 p.m. I also offer in-person classes across the West Midlands, and I actually have a menopausal group coming up on Saturday the 25th of October, this Saturday if you're watching as this video drops, where I'm teaming up with an acupuncturist to really dig into the Chinese medicine benefits. The menopause offers you the opportunity to make a change in your life. So start to become super aware of your mood, your energy levels, the times in which things change, your taste, what you're craving food-wise. All of this can give you a real holistic view on where you're at. And hopefully, once you have some common themes, common symptoms, you can begin to look at ways to manage them from a natural or holistic standpoint. Breathing techniques are very, very beneficial for everyone and anyone, but specifically for ladies going through the menopause. It can help you regulate your hot flushes, your mood changes, and it just gets you out of your head and back into your body, giving you that 2 minutes of stillness that is probably most definitely needed. If you feel that you have a dysfunction or an imbalance within one of your organs off the back of this video, reach out and have a consultation with me. They're free and we can discuss how to move forward beyond these symptoms. I wish you all the best with your menopausal journey, and if you've enjoyed today's video and the Chinese medicine view that I take, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and hopefully you'll be here again soon. Thank you so much. Take care.